Hey, what's up guys? Hardleg Joe here, coming at you with the What a Deck profile for episode 173, Mayakashi Beatdown. For our monster lineup, we're playing 3 Orbital Hydrolander, 3 Mizuki, 1 Shiranui Spiritualist, 1 Shiranui Spirit Master, 3 Shiranui Solitaire, 3 Unizombie, 1 Shafu, the Wheeled Mayakashi, 1 Shiranui Spectral Sword of Sunset, 2 Daki, the Graceful Mayakashi, 1 Shiranui Spectral Sword, and 3 Heijun, the Winged Mayakashi. For spells, we're playing 3 Book of Life, 1 for 1, 3 Mayakashi Return, 3 Gold Sarcophagus, 1 Foolish Burial, 1 Monster Reborn, 3 Called by the Grave, 2 Twin Twisters, and 3 Call of the Mummy. Our extra deck consists of 1 Skeletal Mayakashi, 2 Graceful Mayakashi, 1 Shiranui Shogun Saga, 1 Psyframe Lord Omega, 2 of the Winged Mayakashi, 1 Shiranui Spirit Saga, 1 Samurai Saga, 2 Poisonous Mayakashi, 1 Wheeled Mayakashi, and 1 each of Shiranui Splendid Saga, Yugioh the Ice Mayakashi, and Vampire Sucker. The side deck I'll go over in a bit. So this is first and foremost a Mayakashi deck, and if you're unfamiliar with that engine, it's pretty simple. Heijun, the Winged Mayakashi, is your starter. When it is normal or special summoned, you can summon 1 Mayakashi from your deck, except a copy of itself, but while it's on the field, you can only summon Mayakashis from the extra deck. You will always use this effect to search Daki, the Graceful Mayakashi. She is a level 2 tuner with the effect that when a Mayakashi monster is summoned to your side of the field from the extra deck, you can special summon her from the graveyard. This effect is not once per turn, but it does lock you into summoning only Mayakashis from the extra deck that turn. Using these two, you can synchro climb like crazy, which is what this deck is all about. Your level 2 tuner and your level 1 non-tuner will make your level 3 synchro, and since a Mayakashi was summoned from the extra deck, you'll summon Daki out of the graveyard. You now have a level 3 non-tuner, which, along with Daki, will make your level 5 synchro, and would you look at that, a Mayakashi was summoned from the extra deck, so you summon Daki again. Repeat this process, synchro summoning the level 7, the level 9, and finally the level 11. I usually end on this guy, both because it's the highest level, and also because he has the strongest attack, and this deck is all about attacking. But if you want to, you can also use him and Daki to make the Link 2, which has some utility uses. Now the reason you want to do all of this is because all of the Mayakashi synchros have effects that trigger when they're special summoned out of the graveyard, and synchro climbing up to 11 will essentially let you dump all of them into the graveyard, allowing you to have a toolbox of zombie synchros that you can raise from the dead. Skeleton Man's effect is to make himself unaffected by all other card effects, Fox destroys an opponent's monster, Tengu destroys a spell trap, the Dirt Spider lets both players mill 3 cards, and the level 3 makes it so that none of your monsters can be destroyed by battle this turn. This last one in particular is only really good on your opponent's turn, which is where the Synchro's second effects come into play. This guy says that if a level 5 Synchro you control is destroyed, you can banish another zombie from the grave, and then special summon this card. The level 5 monster says the same thing, except it only activates when a level 7 Synchro monster is destroyed. This theme repeats all the way up to the big skelly man, who summons himself if a zombie Link monster you control is destroyed, which is why some people like to end on this. So basically, if your opponent destroys any of your Synchros, it just floats into the Synchro below it, and when those Synchros are summoned out of the graveyard, they get some kind of effect. Now this is nice for defense, but most of the time we don't want to wait this long. This is a primarily go second beatdown deck, where the idea is to summon the Synchro monsters back on our turn and attack for a lot of damage. We accomplish this mostly with cards like Monster Reborn, Book of Life, and Mizuki. Monster Reborn should be familiar to anyone who's played Yu-Gi-Oh! Book of Life is essentially the same thing, except it can only summon zombie monsters from your graveyard, and it banishes a monster from the opponent's graveyard at the same time. That second part of the effect can be useful, but it's also kind of a hindrance, since you can't activate Book of Life if your opponent doesn't have a monster in their graveyard. That shouldn't be a problem going second most of the time, but it does come up every once in a while, especially if you're forced to go first for whatever reason. As for Mizuki, he's a zombie staple. You banish it from the graveyard to summon another zombie from the graveyard. We're playing Unizombie almost entirely so that we can dump Mizuki into the graveyard, and we're playing Solitaire mostly because it can tribute itself to summon any zombie tuner with 0 defense, which includes Unizombie. These two work best if you open with Call of the Mummy, which is a continuous spell that lets you special summon a zombie from your hand if you control no monsters. If you start with this, one of the cards that gets you Unizombie, and one of the cards that gets you Heijun, you can usually OTK. Special summon Heijun with Call of the Mummy, go through your combo, that'll give you a 3300 beater, plus an extra 1000 attack from Daki. Then you normal summon one of these two to get to your Unizombie, use its effect to dump Mizuki into the grave, and Mizuki will summon Yugioh, who will not only add another 2900 attack to the board, but also destroy a monster when it's special summoned. If all of that isn't enough to beat over your opponent's field, then we also have 2 other spicy tech cards that'll help you get there. First is Gold Sarcophagus, another classic Yu-Gi-Oh card. I'm going to assume you're familiar with it. Using this, we can banish Shiranuis from our deck, which all get effects when they're banished. Most of the time, we'll be getting Shiranui Spirit Master, who destroys any one face-up card when it's banished. This will allow you to either bait out negation so that your plays can go through unabided, or it'll allow you to pop one of those cards that might be preventing you from OTKing. Our other spicy tech is Orbital Hydrolander, which is a 3k attacker that can only be special summoned from your hand if you have 5 or more monsters in your graveyard with different names, and none of them with the same name. In many decks, getting this setup can be difficult, but in going through your normal Mayakashi combos, you'll get 4 Synchros into the graveyard, plus Heijun, which will give you the exact setup you need for this. In addition, Hydrolander has an effect that once per turn during either player's turn, you can mill 3 cards and destroy 1 card on the field. But you can only activate and resolve this effect if you have at least 2 monsters in your graveyard and none of them have the same name. In a zombie deck, milling 3 is almost never bad because we want stuff in the graveyard, and unless you happen to land on another copy of Heijun, this effect is going to go through without a hitch. This, along with your Mayakashi Beatsticks, should give you enough to OTK. And if not, then you still have a high attack monster with quick effect destruction that can disrupt your opponent during their turn and buy you that extra time you need to finish them off. Anyway, those are your main playmakers. Everything else in here is just some extra options, some extra synergies, and extra tech cards that you can work in. In addition to our one-of Spirit Master that we use to pop cards, we also play 1 Spiritualist. If this is banished, say with Gold Sarcophagus, or by banishing it from the grave with one of your Mayakashi floating effects, you can draw 1 card and discard 1 card, which can be useful to help you dig for your combo pieces, or to get rid of a Mizuki that's in your hand. In addition, when it's normal summoned, you can special summon 1 Shiranui Spectral Sword monster from your hand or deck, but you can only summon zombies for the rest of the turn. This is partially why we play Spectral Sword and its retrained Spectral Sword of Sunset. These are a level 2 and a level 3 tuner respectively, which can be summoned by Spiritualist or Solitaire, and used to make some of your Shiranui synchros, or even more Mayakashis if you really want to. The original Spectral Sword has a cool effect where, if it's in the graveyard except the turn it was sent there, you can banish it and another zombie non-tuner from your graveyard to synchro summon from the grave. Its retrain, meanwhile, has the effect that it can tribute itself to target 2 banished zombies, including at least 1 Shiranui, and special summon them in defense with their effects negated, which can be really good for reusing things like Mizuki. Both of these have gotten me out of some sticky situations, and since we have so many ways to search them, and we benefit from playing one-ofs due to Orbital Hydrolander, I felt they were fine in here at 1. Our last one-of monster is Shafu, the wheeled Mayakashi, which is pretty much just a level 3 version of Heijun, who summons Daki out of the graveyard instead of the deck. If you've already gone up through the Mayakashi Synchro ladder and you still haven't won, this can be a great recovery card, allowing you to do it all again. He's why we skip out on another copy of the level 3 in favor of just going to the level 5 that you can summon with him. All that leaves then is just the rest of our spell cards. We have 1 for 1, which summons Heijun, Mayakashi Return, which searches any Mayakashi card, including Heijun, Foolish Burial for Mizuki, Called by the Grave because Ash Blossom makes this deck cry tears of blood, and 2 copies of Twin Twisters because I can't seem to stop facing Lair of Darkness decks. That just brings us to the rest of our extra deck, which is pretty much just a toolbox of zombie things. Shogun Saga can banish a zombie from the graveyard and gain its attack when it's summoned, which can easily get it up past 5,000 to finish off your opponent if they're not already dead. Omega is just a standard zombie card, letting you recycle your Mizukis, although honestly it's a bit slow these days, not sure if I would necessarily play this. Spirit Saga is probably my favorite card here. It can banish a monster from your graveyard, and then it gains stacking effects depending on what you banished. If it was a zombie monster, all your monsters gain 300. If it was a fire monster, you can destroy a spell trap. And if it was a synchro, you can destroy a monster. None of these target. So if you banish a fire zombie synchro monster, like Yugioh here, then you can do all three, which can be really devastating late game. And summoning this late game is pretty easy. Spectral Sword can banish itself along with your level 5 Mayakashi to get it, or normal summoning Spiritualist will allow you to get the level 3 and make a level 7. Samurai Saga, conversely, is mostly useless. It's just a zombie beater for those times when you can't make anything else but a level 6. The Shiranui Link is great if you've got 3 monsters to make it. It can summon a banished zombie synchro during your opponent's turn, allowing you to recur some resources. And it's got a nice little floodgate that synchro monsters can't be destroyed by card effects, and fire monsters can't be destroyed by battle. Finally, there's just Vampire Sucker, which is just a solid generic link if you need it. As for the side deck, we've got a lot of cards to use if you happen to be going first. Rivalry of Warlord is a great floodgate for the deck since everything here is a zombie. Mayakashi Metamorphosis is essentially a searchable Call of the Haunted, specifically for Mayakashi. They can be used to great effect with their synchros. It just does very little when you're going second. Storming Mirror Force can be really good for taking out monsters that can't be destroyed by card effects, which is a big weakness of this deck. Pretty much all our removal is destruction related. Acquisitiveness can be good recovery for the grind games. There's a third Twin Twister for heavy spell trap decks. And Soul Charge is great for this deck, but not when you're going second and trying to attack, since you can't go into the battle phase the turn you use it. Finally, we have Soul-Absorbing Bone Tower, which is here in case you want to torture your opponent with a boring mill deck. If you're somehow unfamiliar with it, Mayakashi Mill is probably the most popular version of this deck, which you can play just by removing some of our one-of Shiranuis and replacing them with Bone Tower. It mills 2 from your opponent every time a zombie is special summoned, which means just going through your normal Mayakashi synchro climbing will get you at least 24 cards milled. If you can do it twice, it's usually an FTK. I didn't play this, of course, because it's kind of boring to do FTKs. I'm not all about that life, but I felt like it was good to bring up. Speaking of bringing things up, there's some new Mayakashi cards that were just announced recently. They're not in here, mostly because they're not going to be out for like 6 months, and also because this deck was already pretty much finalized when they were announced, and I didn't know how to work them in. But anyway, there's the deck. I hope you enjoyed. If you'd like to see Mayakashi Beatdown in action, you can check out the main video. There I'll be playing 10 random duels against opponents on YGOPro, showing off how this works. Or if you're short on time, check out the replay video. Both should be linked on the end card and in the description. Until next time, good luck, and have fun.